Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you clicking on this video and I hope you can find some of this content useful to you. And if you do, please consider subscribing to my channel as it definitely helps out a lot. If there's any questions you have on the video, anything at all, please comment below. Okay, so today we're going to be doing a complete growing guide on this awesome plant back here, the rosemary plant. Now, rosemary is a perennial, unlike a lot of herbs, meaning that it keeps on coming back every year. So because it's a perennial, it has this woody stem here, and this allows it to basically survive the winter without dying back. And you see here about a good, I'd say probably about a foot up, you have all this woody stalk. And the older it gets, usually the more this woody stem will go higher and higher. The plant will keep on getting taller, but it'll keep on producing more and more rosemary stems. So if you actually look right here, I can bring this down, you can actually see where this is slowly starting to turn woody all the way up, and then you see the brand new shoot right here that is growing. And even if you have a harsher winter than I do here in Texas, even if parts of these die here, all this woody part and all the woody parts of the stem here will be perfectly fine, and this plant will grow back perfectly fine. Every spring it'll come back with no issues. So when pruning the rosemary plant, really you just want to prune it wherever it looks like it needs to be pruned. And I know that's a very vague answer, but I want to show you really how simple this is and really how hardy this plant is. Because if you come over here and let's say, let me take you a little bit higher here. Let's say that this one right here is too tall. You can come and trim it right there. And when you're trimming it, you're pruning it because you want to use it. You want to use it in your cooking, you want to put it in oils, maybe your friend wants it, whatever the case is, you want to actually use that rosemary, and so you prune it to use it. Anywhere that you prune it, it's going to offshoot and it's going to continue growing in different parts. So if you look here right in the middle, this is a really old branch right here. It's very woody. It's one of the larger ones that grow up high. But even though, if you look right here, I pruned this, I'm not sure when, but I cut this off a while back. And if you notice, yes, it doesn't grow anymore from that point here, but all the way around here, it's starting to put up all these new little limbs here that start off woody and end up well, actually, sorry, I said that backwards. Start up nice and soft like this, brand new, which will eventually go woody. But the point is, once you actually prune this here, it'll actually put all this energy then into growing a new limb up. So you don't losing the rosemary. It comes back really easily. The same thing over here. I pruned on this one and you have all these new ones. Really, it's nice because the more you prune, the bigger and the larger the plant gets. Now, to segue off the pruning, let's talk about having diseases or any issues that you might have with this plant. So the only thing I've had with diseases, and I'm not actually sure what the disease was, but I promise it truly doesn't matter, because let me explain. What happened was I started having a lot of these leaves go yellow. And if you actually look, there's, I think, one down here now. If you look right here, this one right here is a little bit yellow, and you see how there's some black spots right there. But what I had was the majority of the top ones over here, and this was sometime during the summer this year, was all starting to turn yellow and starting to look really ugly. So I ended up, what I did to fix this, all I did was I cut out and I pruned all the bad, ugly growth. I gave it a nice shot of my seaweed fertilizer, made sure it was good and watered, and just after, let's say, maybe about a month, everything came back in. All these new shoots started coming back beautiful. They come back and they're all really nice and green, no issues at all. Rosemary is very resistant to diseases. If you have any diseases, because of the fact that you can prune this thing as much as you want and you will not kill it, you can literally prune away diseases and you'll be perfectly fine. Now, one cause that you can have for diseases, if you don't prune often enough, the plant will actually get a little overburdened. If you have too much leaves, too much stems and leaves going everywhere, and it doesn't have enough air circulation, it can start getting diseases, and you need to be able to prune that down. Now, I like to think that my snake here drives out some of the pests, but in reality, the entire 4 years I've had this plant, I have had zero pests, not a single one. And I promise it's not just because of where I live. I get pests on all of my plants. You watch my other videos, trust me, it happens to every single gardener. But it doesn't happen to this. One thing is because really of the way it smells. I mean, I like the way it smells. I think most people do. And if you're watching this video, you probably like the way it smells as well. But pests don't, because it's a stronger smell. Just like a lot of herbs that have the strong, potent smell, they really don't have very many pests, which again makes it a very good plant for you to grow. Now, I mentioned seaweed earlier, which is what I use for fertilization, really because this doesn't have any flowers. It doesn't flower at all. It's just a beautiful green plant. You use the leaves, basically like lettuce. Um, all you need to do is some type, I use seaweed fertilizer, but some type of a high nitrogen fertilizer. You don't need a potassium phosphorus. You just need something in high nitrogen. You can even just put compost, use compost tea. It'll take the nitrogen out and forget what it doesn't need. But I use a water-soluble seaweed fertilizer. I believe it's 1600. It works really well, and the plant loves it. Now, for soil, if you look here, I actually have the same thing I basically put in everything that I have. All this is peat moss, perlite, and compost. And I do have a little bit of what do you call it, a mulch on the top of it. Not a big deal, just to help it since it sits in the sun. But that's all I have here, and it works really well. Anything with potted plants, you need a lot of peat moss to help hold that water with the water retention. And the perlite or vermiculite, either one helps for the same exact reason. Now, the only other thing I think that we haven't talked about is sun exposure. So it doesn't flower, so you don't need as much sun exposure as other plants. So you don't need the 8 to 9+ hours of sun exposure. For rosemary, you really just need about 6 good solid hours of sun exposure. Where I have this sitting normally on my back patio, it gets right at 6. It's shaded by the afternoon sun by my patio, so really gets more of the morning and about 2 o'clock. The sun, it doesn't really get direct sunlight at that point in time, and it is perfectly happy. As you see, it's a very healthy and happy plant. Thank you very much for joining me on this video today. I really do hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some good, useful information on it. And if you haven't yet, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. Let me know if there's anything else I didn't discuss that you have questions on, any issues you might have had previously with growing rosemary, or if there's something I didn't mention that you have advice for people, please comment below so everybody can see it. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.